You are sitting across from someone who is smiling and saying all the right things. Yet something inside you goes quiet and cold, not because anything visible is wrong, but because your brain has already detected something their words are trying to conceal, the smile that does not quite reach the eyes, the voice that shifts half a tone at precisely the wrong moment, the split-second expression that flashed across their face before the polished version took over. You cannot explain it to anyone or point to a single piece of evidence. But you always know. And that knowing, that constant, involuntary, draining awareness is one of the heaviest things a person can carry. Because seeing through people is not the gift most assume it to be. It is something far more complicated. Today, I want to reveal the real psychology behind this ability. Why certain minds are wired to catch what everyone else misses. What it actually costs to live with that level of perception. And 3 principles that can transform a burden into something extraordinary. From a neuroscience standpoint, this is not mystical or a sixth sense. It is a specific combination of 2 cognitive processes working together at high speed. The first is called thin slicing, the ability to extract accurate information from very small amounts of data in very short time. The second is incongruence detection, the automatic recognition that something does not match, that the words and the body are telling different stories. Think of the average brain as an audience watching a play. They look at the stage and believe what the actors say. But the perceptive brain works differently. It is not watching the stage. It is watching the curtain behind the stage. Noticing the broken props, the prompter's nervous hand, the actor's sweat that was not in the script. Psychologist Paul Ekman spent decades studying microexpressions. Tiny facial movements that flash by in less than 1/25th of a second, revealing the real emotion someone is trying to suppress before the controlled version takes over. Most brains do not register them, but some brains register almost nothing else. When a coworker says they are really happy about your promotion, the perceptive person hears something underneath. The voice rising half a tone, the smile stopping just before it reaches the corners of the eyes, a flicker of something that was not happiness passing across the face before the performance resumed. The brain sends an immediate signal data error. The words and the body do not match. But the most unsettling part is not catching the lie. It is seeing the reason behind it. When pattern recognition combines with deep theory of mind, the mask dissolves. They look at a boss who yells and see a person terrified of losing control. They look at someone who brags constantly and see the pit of insecurity underneath. Craving validation that never arrives. That sounds like a tremendous advantage. But in reality, it is the beginning of 3 psychological traps that can quietly take everything from a person. Trap 1, becoming the villain in your own story. In Greek mythology, Cassandra was given the ability to see the truth, but cursed so that no one would ever believe her. She saw disaster before it arrived, screamed warnings, and people called her paranoid, unstable, and disruptive. This is the Cassandra experience of modern life. Human society runs on a shared agreement, an unspoken contract that everyone signs without realizing it. We wear masks, maintain polite fictions, and allow each other to perform certain versions of ourselves without shining a light into the corners. Then the perceptive person walks into the room. not trying to cause trouble, just constitutionally incapable of not seeing what is there. On a first date, while the other person is dazzled by charm and confidence, the perceptive mind has already mapped the psychological structure underneath. The overconfidence that is actually overcompensation. The eyes that keep checking for reactions, proving performance rather than presence. The rushed enthusiasm that feels scripted rather than felt. They tell their friends something is off about this person, and their friends look at them like they are sabotaging their own happiness. At work, it is worse. When a coworker performs victimhood while the office rallies around them. The perceptive person sees the real picture, the missed deadlines, the pattern of manipulation, the tears deployed strategically. One honest observation lands in the room, and everything shifts. The coworker turns on them, labeling them cold, arrogant, lacking empathy. In psychoanalysis, this is called projection. When the truth someone is hiding gets close to the surface, the ego strikes back. The person who saw clearly becomes the villain. Over time, they learn a rule that nobody teaches directly, but life keeps demonstrating their clarity, makes other people feel psychologically exposed. By pure survival instinct, people want to destroy the one who holds their secrets, so they go quiet. Smile and nod. Pretend not to see. But pretending not to see what you cannot stop seeing creates a different kind of damage. Trap 2. When seeing everything becomes seeing threats everywhere. When trust in other people's words erodes completely, the mind turns fully inward. Observation stops being a tool and becomes a weapon pointed at everyone, including the people who genuinely love them. A compliment from a partner is never just a compliment. It feels like a setup for a future ask. A gift is not romance. The brain immediately asks what it is compensating for. A message that arrives 30 minutes late is not because someone is busy. It becomes evidence of distance, of shifting priority, of the beginning of an ending that has not happened yet. They build an elaborate internal architecture of worst-case scenarios, genuinely believing that if they can predict every betrayal before it arrives, the pain will be smaller when it does. Psychologists call this confirmation bias operating at full capacity. When the mind decides someone is hiding something, it filters everything through that belief and ignores anything that contradicts it. They win every mental game. They are never fooled. And the cost is that they can never rest. Innocence disappears. Unconditional trust disappears. The simple act of resting your head on someone's shoulder without your brain running an analysis disappears. They become like a person with hypersensitive hearing who can detect the crack in a building before it collapses. Useful for survival, but devastating for music. Every sound becomes a threat assessment rather than something to simply experience. If you are recognizing yourself in these two traps, I want you to sit with something important. The weight you are carrying is real. The exhaustion from a single social interaction that costs most people nothing is real. The loneliness of being the person who sees what no one else sees and cannot say any of it is real. None of it means something is wrong with you. It means you are carrying a capacity that nobody prepared you to carry. Trap 3, holding truths that belong to everyone else. There is a specific kind of loneliness that only people who see everything understand. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of standing in a crowd watching something unfold and knowing there is nothing you can say. They attend a friend's wedding. Everyone is celebrating. And through a glance that lasted 1 second too long. through a smile that required visible effort. They see what no one else sees. They know the marriage is built on something unstable. They raise a glass anyway, say the words, and carry the weight of a truth nobody asked for and nobody would believe. They watch a kind colleague being slowly consumed by a manipulative system with complete clarity, knowing that if they say anything, it will be denied. The denial is a survival mechanism their colleague needs, and taking it away would do more harm than leaving it. So they stay quiet. And the weight of all these unspoken truths accumulates, not dramatically, but quietly. Like water filling a room very slowly. The cruelest part is this because they are so skilled at reading what everyone else needs. They become extraordinary at providing it. They know how to make people feel seen and understood before a single word has been spoken. But in return, almost no one reads them. No one knows what they actually need. No one knows where they are hurting. People assume they are too strong, too perceptive, too self-sufficient to need anything. The one who understands everyone becomes invisible. They see through the world. But when the world looks back, it only sees its own reflection. Principle 1. Strategic ignorance. This is the art of knowing everything and not reacting to everything. The separation between truth and responsibility. When you see a coworker performing in ways you see through completely, the question is not whether you are right. The question is whether it is yours to address. Does it affect you directly? Does it require your intervention to protect someone? If the answer is no, practice treating it like a cloud passing across the sky. You can see it is gray without needing to push it away. Your perception is a tool for gathering information that helps you make safer decisions for yourself. It is not a mandate to correct the world. Principle 2. Accept that masks exist for a reason. The suffering of highly perceptive people often comes from holding authenticity to a standard that most people simply cannot meet. Look more carefully at why people wear masks. It is rarely to deceive in a predatory sense. It is usually to survive. The person who brags loudly is a child who was not validated. The person who seems cold and untouchable is someone shaking inside, terrified of being betrayed again. A lie held privately is sometimes the only thing keeping someone from collapsing. When you understand this, something shifts. The disgust softens, and in its place comes something rarer and more powerful. The ability to see the mask clearly and still choose to treat the person inside it with kindness, not because you were fooled, but because you understood. Principle 3. Give the present moment permission to be enough. The detective trap exists because the perceptive mind is trying to eliminate future pain by predicting it in advance. But the math does not work. If your perception tells you there is a 20% chance something could end badly, living inside that 20% means surrendering the 80% that is real and present and good right now. You can see the thorns on a rose. But if every moment is spent analyzing how sharp each thorn is, you never smell the flower. Practice being intentionally unanalytical sometimes. Not because you have stopped seeing, but because you have decided that this moment deserves to be experienced rather than examined. When you learn to do this, the perception does not disappear. It evolves. You stop being a cold machine cataloging every flaw and become something quieter and more powerful. A lighthouse. You see the rocks and dangerous currents beneath the surface, But instead of panicking, you use that knowledge to navigate calmly, to protect yourself and those you choose to protect. This level of perception is a brutal gift that can slowly consume you if carried without understanding, or become the most extraordinary thing about you if you learn to hold it differently. You were not given the ability to see clearly, so you could spend your life exhausted by what you see. You were given it so you could eventually learn to see with wisdom instead of just awareness. And that shift changes everything. Of the 3 traps explored today, consider which one lives closest to your own experience. People who see everything are the last ones anyone thinks to look after, and they deserve to know they are not alone in what they carry.